So another team that got upset, Baltimore going down to the Raiders. A weird game because the Ravens won. The Ravens were leading pretty much the entire game. But the Raiders came back. The Raiders were down 23-13. They took a 26-13 lead in the fourth quarter. Gardner Minshew leading them to a 13-point fourth quarter. That was craziness. Can we talk about Gardner Minshew for a second? 30 for 38, 276 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. That's not giving him enough credit. Those 2 field goal drives in the fourth quarter that he led were very impressive. I think he saw something. He was 11 for 13 in the fourth quarter with a touchdown pass. And it's funny because Minshew, for what it's worth, I don't think he's a great quarterback. Right now, he's in the top 10 in the league for passer rating through 2 weeks. And I was kind of wondering if, like, were the Raiders tanking maybe? Because it's hard for me to take a team seriously when they name Gardner Minshew as their starter. But to their credit, they're 1-1, and whether or not that was the intention of the front office, Max Crosby, Davante Adams, Brock Bowers, 98 yards, 9 catches for him. Davante went over 100, and Max Crosby had a great game defensively. There are some playmakers on this team. There are enough good players on the Raiders that they're going to win some games. Now, they might only win 5 or 6, but they're going to win some games. They're not going to be in contention for a number 1 pick. But I think this game says more about Baltimore than it says about the Raiders, because I think the Raiders are kind of who we think they are. They're not a great team, but they have some playmakers. Minshew is going to have his moments. They're going to have some magical wins, and they're going to have a lot of losses where Minshew throws picks and they lose to good teams. They're probably a 6-11 team when it's all said and done. Maybe 7-10, maybe 5-12, somewhere in that range. But this loss to me says more about Baltimore and their ability. They did not look resilient. In that fourth quarter, they fell apart. And after losing very close to the Chiefs, the loss to the Raiders, that's a bad loss. And again, I want to mention this. Last play of the game, Ravens had 7 seconds left. They needed about 30 yards to get themselves into field goal range. Lamar throws a jump ball to Isaiah Likely. Totally could have called a flag on the Raiders there, but the refs did what they normally do. They let it play out. Not like the Chiefs, who get every call in the world. And again, an example of every team besides the Chiefs doesn't get that call. The Chiefs are the only team in the league that gets that pass interference call on 4th and long with the game on the line. No other team gets that call, even if there was contact, even if it was a valid penalty. 90% of the time, as we saw in this very game with the throw to Likely, 90% of the time the refs are going to let it play because they don't want to insert themselves into the biggest play of the game. But with that being said, Tucker missed another kick. Justin Tucker did. That's becoming a real problem for them. Baltimore, after going 14-3 last season, they've lost 3 straight dating back to the playoffs. This is a problem for them. We are officially in Ravens problem area. They're 2 games back of Pittsburgh. They're a game behind Cleveland. I picked them to be a wildcard team this year, but I'm not fully sold on the Ravens right now. I think this team could definitely miss the playoffs if things go poorly, if things continue to go south. Starting 0-2 is really tough, and next week they have to play Dallas. That's a must-win game, I think, for them. They have to beat Dallas. They can't. If they start 0-3, they're probably cooked. If they beat Dallas, that gives them a much better chance, but Dallas also needs to win because they're 1-1. So I guess we're going to learn a lot about both the Dallas Cowboys and the Baltimore Ravens next week. Are either of these teams the same as they were last year? But the Ravens, in week 1, they looked like a good team that lost to a better team. Week 2, they looked like a mid team that got beat by a bad team. That's what they looked like. I need to see a little bit more from Baltimore, but man, I'm worried about the Ravens. But I'm kind of happy because I said I didn't think they'd be as good this year. I predicted them to win 10-7, to be a wildcard team, and to lose first round of the playoffs. That might have been. They might not even be 10-7. They may be a 9-win team, maybe an 8-win team right now. That's what I see from the Ravens. We'll see though. We'll see. Long season ahead.